shares, but the value of the total value can't change. It has to stay the same. The market cap is the total value. Bless you. So in my example where I say I have 100,000, like my company has 100,000 shares outstanding and they're worth $1 each, then my market cap is $100,000. And my outstanding shares are 100,000 shares. And in a traditional stock split, the number of shares goes up and the value of each individual share goes down. Okay. This is indicated as an A for B split. So for example, I could do a 2-for-1. So each one share becomes 2 shares. And so now if I own a share of stock, let's say I own 1 share of a stock that does a split, a 2-for-1 split, now my 1 share is magically turned into 2 shares.
So you doubled your shares?
Doubled my shares, but the value stays the same. So like our $20 bill, let's say I had a $20 stock, one single $20 stock, and they did a 2-for-1 split, I now have 2 $10 stocks. It can't be. My numbers are increasing, but my value has stayed the same. The number of shares goes up and the value of each individual share comes down. The reverse stock split does the opposite. The number of shares goes down and the individual value goes up. And then we have something called penny stocks, and this is any stock worth less than $5 a share. Okay. Companies will use a reverse stock split to make their penny stocks worth more. Or like I said, to artificially inflate the value, to make it look like the value of their stock has gone up when it really hasn't. John Deere Corporation, DE, instituted a 2-for-1 stock split. Before the split, the market share was $87.68 per share, and there were 1.2 billion shares outstanding. Okay, so pre-split, 1.2 billion, which is 1.2 billion times 87.68 per share. So the market cap is the total number of outstanding shares times the price per share. And anybody do that in your head real quick? A lot, yes, that is correct. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hundred thousands, millions. So $105 billion is what the market cap was. So that's how much all of these stocks were worth before the split. Okay. Now,
Is there any way to see how many?
Changes the number of shares, but not the total value. Okay, so the shares change, but not the total value doesn't change. The individual share value will change though. Okay, so we have a 2-for-1 stock split. We had 1.2 billion outstanding. So that is So thousands, 100,000, million, billion. So, and we want to find out what is the pre-split market cap. Well, the pre-split market cap is that 1.2 billion shares times 87.68 per share. So the market cap is equal to the number of outstanding times the price per share. Okay. And in this case, when we multiply this out, we're going to get $105,216,000,000. So this is their market cap. Okay. Okay, we're doing a 2-for-1 split, so 2 for 1. Okay. The post-split number of shares is twice as many as original. So I had 1.2 billion, and every 1 share is now going to be 2 shares. So now I'm going to have 2 billion shares. 2.4 billion, not 2. Sorry. Okay. The market price per share, okay. I had, again, a 2-for-1 split. Before, so pre-split, they were 87.68 for 1 share. After the split, that 1 share has become 2 shares. But it's still worth 87.68. So I'm going to take that 87.68 and I'm going to divide it by 2 to get my post-split price, and that's 43.84. And then did the market cap change after the split? What do you guys think?
No.
No. It stays the same. And if we multiplied 2.4 billion times 87.68, we would still get that 105,216,000,000. You could double check yourself and do the multiplication, but it would be the same because the market cap doesn't change, just the number of shares and the price per share that change. Yes, 43. Yes, you're right, 43. I was talking and not paying attention to what I was actually writing. Yeah. So twice as many shares, half as much each, same total value. Now, if you have a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1, it's really easy because there's a for 1 there. But sometimes they do different numbers of split. They can do a 3-for-5. They can do a 3-for-2 or 2-for-3 or 6-for-7. They can do whatever numbers they want. And so we have a formula to make it easier so you don't have to try to figure out what to multiply and divide by. Okay, so A for B. A for B. So any number for any other number. For the post-split number of shares, it's A over B times the pre-split number of shares. And for the post-split share price, you flip it. It's B over A times this pre-split share price. So if I have a 3-for-5, this would be 3/5 times whatever the number of shares were, and 5/3 times whatever the price was. Okay, so Palm Inc. is having a 1 for 20. That's A. That's B. Before this split, the market share price is 64 cents, and there were 580 million shares. I want to know the post-split price and the post-split number of shares. So I have a 1 for 20. So for the number of shares, I'm going to do A over B. So that's 1 over 20 times 580 million, which is essentially 580 million divided by 20, right? Because of doing 1/20th.
So wait, what's the difference between a reverse stock split and a regular one?
A traditional stock split is where you turn a smaller number of shares into a larger one. And a reverse stock split is where you go the other way. You turn a large number of shares into a smaller one. Reverse stock splits raise the value of the individual shares. Okay, so to do a fraction times a whole number, I'm going to do it this way. We take this 20 and we divide 580 million by it. Or, yes, 580 million divided by 20. And 580 million divided by 20 is 29 million. This is my new number of shares outstanding. Okay, and then for my new per share price, in this instant, I'm going to do B over A. So I do 20 over 1 times 64 cents. So now, instead of being 64 cents, they're $12.80 per share. What the stock split ratio is, if we know the pre and post value. Okay, so because we have that the post split money is equal to B over A times the pre-split money. Okay, well we know that the post-split is 705. And we know that the pre-split is 235. Okay. We have 705 is greater than 235. This is B. This is A. B is greater than A. We're going to say that A is 1. Okay. If it was the other way around, if A is greater than B, we're going to say that B is 1. Okay. So, because we have two unknowns, we have an A and a B, so we have to assign one of them the value of 1. Now we could end up with a number for the other variable that's like a decimal or a fraction, in which case we'd have to adjust it to get whole numbers, but you have to assign one of them a value of 1 in order to solve for the other. Does that make sense? Because we can't have just be an A and then we'll spend all day trying to figure out numbers that work.
So the smaller one is the 1.
Yeah, the smaller one is the 1. So here A equals 1, here B equals 1. So in this case then, I'm going to put the B up here at over 1. So that means 705 is equal to 235B. I'm going to divide both sides by B. No, sorry. What am I doing? I'm going to divide both sides by 235. It doesn't make any sense to divide by B.
You're really tired.
No, I'm not tired. It's just something else. 705 divided by 235 is 3. So this came out to an even number. B equals 3. So this is a 1, 4, 3 split. Okay, hypothetical. Let's say B equaled 2.5 and A equals 1. We don't do decimals in stock. You either buy a whole stock or you've got no stock, if there's no parts of stocks. If this happens, I multiply to get a whole number, and I multiply by the same thing. So then this would have been a 2 for 5 in that instance. So you figure out what you have to multiply to make it a whole number, and then you multiply them both by the same thing. Sometimes you have a stock split. That's an L and that's an I. Okay. And it creates a remainder. Okay, let's say I had 15 shares of stock and I was given a 1 for 2. Well, that means I have my 15 divided by 2, so now I have 7.5 shares of stock. I can't own 7.5. You can't own parts of a stock, just like you can't have like half a kid. Okay, you've got a whole kid or you've got no kid. You have a whole stock or you've got no stock. You can't have parts of stocks running around. So what happens when this happens is that corporations buy up the remainders. And then if there's enough of them, they can recombine them and reconfigure them to make whole shares, or any that are left over just sort of disappear. Okay, so now I own 7.5 shares of stock. The corporation of that stock is going to send me the value of half a share. They'll send me a check in the mail for half a share, and now I only owe 7 shares. Okay. All right, so here's what happens. So Steve owns 942 shares of Graham Corporation, and then they did a 5 for 4 split. The stock is selling for $56 per share before the split. Okay, so here's what happens. We have that 942, we have a 5 for 4. So this is A, and this is B. My post-split number, remember, is A over B times the pre, and my post money is equal to B over A times the pre. So in this one, I'm going to have 5 over 4 times 942 shares. Okay. 4 goes into 942. 235.5 times, and then I multiply that by 5, and I get 1,177.5, or I could have done 942 times 5 and then divided by 4. I just like to divide first because it makes the number smaller, but you can go the other direction if you choose. So this is the number of shares he has. He has half a share. His post-split value is 4 over 5 times $56. And this time I'll do 4 times 5. And 4 times 56 is 224 divided by 5 makes them 44.80 each. Okay, so here's what happens. Steve has 1,177.5 shares. Graham Corp sends Steve check for 0.5 times 44.80. So that's the half a share times the price per share, which is $22.40. Okay. So Steve gets Steve gets 1,177 shares and $22.40 in cash or check, and the value is the same. Okay. If you look at his pre-share price, he had 942 shares times $56. That was 52752. Okay. After the split, he has 1177 times 44.80 plus 22.40, and it's the same. Steve is not financially affected by the split at all. Okay. Stock splits do not financially affect the stockholders. Stock splits financially affect the perceived value of the stock and the company. Are not paid by every company, and they're not necessarily paid every year. Board of directors decides that. The dividend is what happens when the corporation is owned by its shareholders, and corporations make profits, and periodically they will release those profits to the shareholders. It gets split evenly amongst all of the shares of stock. So if a company has a profit and there's 100,000 shares of stock outstanding, it gets divided by 100,000, and you get equivalent to that times the number of shares you have. So people with 1 share will get less than people with 500 shares. The money received from dividends, it can range from less than $1 per share to thousands of dollars per share. Just depends on the company. Stocks that pay dividends are called income stocks. Not every stock pays dividends. There are some stocks that when you go into it, you know you're not going to ever get a dividend. But the stocks that do pay dividends are called income stocks. And the yield, the percent yield, is the percent value of the dividend compared to the current price per share of the stock. This is different than a percent change in a daily stock change. This is a percent yield. So this is talking about how much money you earned off of putting your investments in the stock versus like if you had put your money in a savings account. You want your yield on dividends to be higher. Are not concerned with dividends. This is about the price per share. This is people that are doing growth stocks are buying and selling to make money. However, stock can be both. Okay. So income stocks pay dividends. Growth stocks, people are buying and selling to try to earn extra money, but growth stocks can pay dividends. So you can have a stock that's both a growth and an income stock. They're not exclusive. Okay, preferred stock receives the dividend income first. Okay, preferred stock is a set dividend generally. And then you have common stock. Common stock is, so preferred stock, when you buy preferred stock, there's a set interval that you're told, okay, you're going to earn this much per share every this often. So every 6 months, every quarter, every year. Common stock doesn't have those sets. Common stocks are, you only get dividends when the board of directors releases them. And the value can change. Now, the beauty of that is if you buy preferred stock when the company stock is kind of low, then your regular dividends are going to be kind of low. Where if you have the common stock, the dividends are going to be based off of current company value and current profits, so it could be considerably higher. Okay, and then you have this kind of little thing here, though. If the company goes under, and they sell their assets, to cover the money to give to shareholders, preferred stockholders get it first. If there's any left over, it would go to the common stockholders. Okay, so Roberta is considering purchasing a common stock that pays an annual dividend of $2.13 per share. If she purchases 700 shares, what would her annual income be from dividends? This price per share doesn't matter with dividend incomes. It says $2.13 per share here for the dividends. So I have 700 shares times the $2.13 of dividends, and I get $1,491 per year in dividend income. Okay. And like I said, companies can decide quarterly, semi-annually, annually, not at all. Okay. Elsie owns 200 shares of a corporation that pays a quarterly dividend of 51 cents per share. How much would she receive in a year? Quarterly is 4 times per year. Okay, so she's got 2,000 shares times 51 cents per share. And so she's going to get $10.20 per quarter. But that happens four times a year. So she's going to get $40.80 per year.
The money that dividends get paid out of?
Corporate profits.
So like as a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's corporate profits. So corporations are owned by the shareholders. So technically speaking, unless they're reinvesting the profits back into the business, the shareholders aren't get those profits. That's what the dividends are. Okay. We still got 5 minutes. Okay, yield is when you take the annual dividend per share and you divide it by the price per share. Okay. So if her annual dividend is $1.40 and the price is $57.40, I'm going to do this like that. And I'm going to get 0.0243902 and some stuff, which gives me a yield of about 2.44%. This gives me sort of my earnings idea. I'm earning 2.4% on my money. Now, if I had invested this in a savings account, I might be getting like 0.5% on my money or something. So I'm earning good money here. Okay. Okay, here we have Beep Company is an annual dividend of $1.20. Closed at $34.50 with a net change of 50 cents. We want to know what was the stock's yield at yesterday's closing price. So if I went down 50 cents, yesterday I was up. Yeah, so I want to add that 50 cents. So yesterday I was $35. So I want to divide $1.20 by 35, which will give me 0.03429, which will give me 3.4% yield. Again, that's a pretty good yield. Annual dividend, stock split. What happens to the dividend after the split? This is the same as a per share price. So I'm going to do, it's a 2-for-1, so this is A, this is B. Okay, so it's going to be B over A times the dividend. So I have 1 over 2 times 214. So it's now $1.07 per share, but you have twice as many shares. So your dividend didn't change. I only have one more example left. You guys mind? There's like 3 words and then an example. Okay. Loan to a corporation. Okay. It's less risky than a stock. You're paid back at interest. You're paid back with interest at a set rate. And that's all determined when you buy the bond. So when you buy the bond, you know I'm going to have this much money at the end of this many years paid back to me. Okay. The face value is the amount of the bond paid when it matures. So if I buy a $100 savings bond, I didn't pay $100 for it. It's going to be worth $100 when it matures. I may have paid $50 for it or something. And matures is then when the loan period comes to an end. So it might be a 5-year bond or a 10-year bond or a 2-year bond. What could be a 1-year bond? So when you buy a bond, you find out how much it's going to cost you, how long it's going to be, and how much you get at the end. And that's when you decide if it's worth your money. Okay. So if I buy a bond that's $1,000 and it pays 5.7% interest per year. Now corporate bonds and government bonds are a little different. Corporate bonds do pay your interest yearly, and then you get the $1,000 at the end. So interest is equal to principal times rate times time. We haven't really gone over that yet, but I take that $1,000 and I multiply it by my interest rate times my 1 year. And I'm going to get $57 per year in interest.
What do you multiply by 1 year?
The interest rate and then the face value. Okay. And then your homework is to finish sections 8 and 9, odds. Tomorrow we will review